The purpose of this video is to give you a general overview of what pain is, both when it's acute as well as when it becomes chronic or persistent. To begin, let's define pain. A really great definition is that pain is an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with actual or potential tissue damage, or described in terms of such damage. Some takeaways from this definition are that it's important to remember that pain does not always equal actual damage. It's also important to note that pain can be a product of your sensory input as well as other factors. Think of it as an interaction between biological, emotional and cognitive, and social and cultural components. All aspects of your life can influence pain, which also means that you have a ton of options for treating your pain. So what is the process that actually leads to pain? Nociceptors are certain sensors in your body that are activated by a stimulus that is potentially, which is a key word here, threatening, such as the event of putting your hand on a hot pan, or even just when you're sitting for too long in one position. Through chemical processes, these sensors send potential threat signals from the body to the spinal cord by way of neurons, or nerve cells. Once these signals of potential threat make it to the spinal cord, they can be sent up to the brain, where it decides what will come of this signal. The brain decides whether or not there is truly a threat. If the brain thinks there is a threat, it will send a pain signal down through the spinal cord back to the body so that an action can be taken to remove or get away from the threat. A critical thing to remember from this is that pain is a response or signal that comes only from the brain, not from the tissues or the body itself. Just to note, the brain is also capable of sending signals other than pain to decrease the threat signal if it does not think pain is the best response for you in that moment, such as when you're sitting for too long in one position. You may not feel pain there, but your brain will send other signals to get you to wiggle around or get up in order to avoid some discomfort or potential tissue damage later on. If there is actual tissue damage, such as in the example of the hand on the hot pan, healing will then begin to occur in the damaged tissue of the hand. This healing process is pretty predictable, and I'm sure we can all think of someone or even ourselves accidentally touching a hot oven door or pan. We know it heals, and once that tissue is healed, it has no reason to send threat signals anymore, and therefore there is no reason for the brain to send back a pain response. This, in a nutshell, is the process of acute pain. To make it a little easier to swallow, you can think of it as a home security system. The nociceptors are the alarm system at your house that sense something. You call the security company, the spinal cord, via your telephone, the neurons transmitting the signal. The security system then passes the message on to the police station, the brain, who can then put all the pieces of the situation together and send down a police officer the pain signal to protect you. When pain persists in the body, which can be for any number of reasons, quite honestly, the nociceptors can become more persistently sensitive, and the brain can therefore conclude that a threat remains and you need more protection, even if that's not the case, even if your tissue is actually all healed. Persistent pain, then, is much more about the triggers of sensitivity than any actual tissue damage. It is also about the changes in your brain as the pain persists, changes with the intention of protecting you by altering both motor and sensory components of the affected body part. Unfortunately, these can lead to things like increased sensitivity to normally painful things, called hyperalgesia, or even a pain response to something that is not normally painful at all, called allodynia. And although this may sound scary, here's a couple thoughts from the book Explain Pain that are incredible and hopeful. 1. The sensors in your body and brain cycle through every few days. They are frequently being replaced by new sensors, which means your current level of sensitivity is never permanently fixed. And 2. Your brain, with its billions of neurons and trillions of ever-changing connections, has vastly greater capacities and abilities than just making pain. There are ways of rearranging the brain, of making these connections stronger and more defined in order to retrain the brain to ultimately help you lessen your pain. Finally, I want to point out just one last time the fact that there are many factors that can contribute to the brain's pain response, and that do contribute to the brain's pain response, which means that there are many different things that can be done to reestablish proper connections and successfully treat your pain.